All right, so the orange hive, the Italians, pop them a bit of smoke, see how we go. So I must have put this box on last week, 2 weeks ago. Starting to festoon. They're going to build that out soon. So I think this box is absolutely fine. I'm going to leave it exactly as it is, but we are going to have a look to make sure our brood's doing well. Maybe we'll go this side. So pollen, honey, and on the other side, pollen, honey as well. So pop that one aside. A bit lighter, this frame, full of milk brood on all those empty cells, and some eggs as well. Eggs, larvae, and a bit of cap brood in the center. So this queen's been laying this out, and on this side you can probably see all that milk brood and eggs in the open cells as well. Really nice brood pattern. Nearly every one of those cells that you can see that are darker and not capped are full of eggs, if not larvae. And the same deal here. Looks like our queen's been here in the last 2 weeks, hanging out, laying out. And she's been here as well. A lot of nurse bees, a lot of young bees, fuzzy bees. Big black drones. Just give them a bit more smoke to get them off the top there. Drive them down a little bit. Another nice frame of brood. It doesn't look like any eggs down in some of those cells. Oh, no, I lie, there's eggs and larvae in those open cells as well. There's our queen. There's our queen just there. So she's a really good queen. She's constantly looking for somewhere new to lay. So I'm going to put that frame back in. We know where she is. And we'll get this other frame in. Now I was going to do a sugar shake on that frame, but I've remembered that I didn't bring my sugar shake kit. Happy hive. Happy queen. Got plenty of room in the box above. I'm not going to do a demarray. I am going to do a demarray. Where was that queen? On here? So we know where our queen is. Take that box off. Put that top box on the bottom. I'm keeping an eye on my queen the whole time. There's our queen. She goes in the bottom box with basically empty frames. Queen excluder goes on. Top box goes back on and we pack them back up. So in 2 weeks time there should be queen cells in this hive and I'll utilise them. Alright, so now we're going to get into the green hive. Not a ton of traffic in the green hive. Let's open them up and see what happens. I think that's the thing about beekeeping. It's a constant see what happens. Because we never know when we're going to open our hives what we're going to find. So in comparison to all the other hives, even the singles, these guys haven't finished their pollen patty. Maybe they're smaller, maybe they're weaker. So that's just pollen and a bit of honey, so they've probably put away that pollen patty. Nectar. And no eggs laid in there, just FYI. Same thing on that side. Very light frame. possibly I put that frame in last week. Did I take some honey home? Yeah, I took 4 frames of honey home 2 weeks ago, so it's pretty possible that's a new frame. This one's got a fair bit of weight to it, and really nice and a good amount of brood, young bees. I'm just going to check for eggs. There's some eggs in amongst here, so the queen's laying. Good brood, couple of queen cells, queen cups I should say. It's pretty good. They've got a bit of room though. She's not a bad laying queen. She's laid out pretty much all of that frame. And in between you can see there's milk brood and bits and pieces. This frame's relatively newly drawn out in places, and there's a bit of brood in there. There's eggs all the way through here, but some drone brood. Probably some larger cells in this frame. Haven't seen the queen. So I think these guys have got plenty of room. They are going to increase in size pretty quickly once that brood hatches. That's just all stored pollen in that side. And the same thing here, and you can see they're bringing in an enormous amount of pollen. So I'm just going to leave them. They are queen right. They are going a bit slower, but that's okay. They've got room. So I'm going to pack them up and we're going to move on and have a look at the next one. Alright guys, so now we're going to get into the white hive. Let's give them some smoke. So they've still got a little bit of their nutrient I put on them. Have you noticed in these inspections there hasn't been one small hive beetle? Don't ask me how. Maybe it's a remote location. Who knows? Rightio, so I'll pull this centre frame out and we'll have a look what's going in this top box. These guys do not have a queen excluder on, and I should smoke them because they're... I can tell they're a bit pissy. I just went and checked and I don't have a queen excluder. So she's up in this top box by the looks of things. Let me just look for some eggs. Doesn't look like any eggs in that frame, but plenty of newly laid brood. Same deal there, pollen. Solid brood pattern at the bottom there. So the nest probably extends down into the bottom box as well. Bit of nectar up here being capped. Constantly build and they constantly bring in stuff. I think that sounds like a great idea. And there's eggs through this frame. So you can see in this frame there's eggs. Not everywhere, but on a fair bit of it. Nothing really happening on those cells over there. Some more eggs. So I think I'll just take this top box off and we'll have a look at the next one. Maybe we'll have it one more. Maybe we'll have a look at one more frame. Nectar. So these guys are bringing in nectar from somewhere. Alright, so let's have a look at this bottom box. Pop this other frame back in. There's a lot of bees that have ended up on the ground there. Try to avoid standing where those bees are. So I think I should be putting a box on these guys anyway, just because of their numbers. There is a lot of bees in this hive, and we're 7 days into spring. I'm just going to go straight in the centre and see what I find, after I give them even more smoke. There you can see milk brood, emerging brood, bubbles. Same thing on this side. Look at that. That's not a bad nest. Eggs in all those closed cells. Sorry, eggs in all those open cells. Booming. It's a pity I don't have a queen excluded, because I'd love to get the queen stuck down the bottom and let her lay out a new box and then have a look at that. You can tell a lot from a queen by trapping her down the bottom with empty frames, because the bees strive to give her comb and she will lay out solid sheets of brood. This one's heavy, so we expect some pollen and some honey. Ooh, pollen, that's probably those patties that that's probably those pollen patties that I fed them. So they're brooding up. More smoke as they get noisier. Have I already looked at this frame? No, I haven't. Look at that. That's almost a perfect frame of brood. Little bit of pollen, so they're a bit pollen bound. But look at this. Wonder what the other side's like. Pretty similar. So this queen's a boomer. She's just going off. But you can see the amount of pollen they're bringing in. So it's got like, what is it? Is there 3 frames upstairs of brood? And then so far we're on frame 5. 6. Just give you an idea what's in there. So you can see this frame is just eggs. So we look over here, what do we find? Eggs. Look up here, what do we find? Milk brood. Happy days. Alright, let's get this one back over and in. That's all laid out. And this one here is basically nectar and pollen. And the same thing, nectar and pollen. Alright. So, what am I going to do here? What frame came out of there? We don't know where the queen is. She could be up the top. She could be down the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box on top of these guys, purely because we don't have an excluder. So I'll get this box back on, which is probably, oops, should have smoked down first. Probably got a queen in it. And then I'll drop another box on. So another box with some drawn out comb in it. And I might swap some of this out. I've got some comb that's not drawn. So there we go, that box is on. Pop their lid on. One of these laying on the ground, which I neglected to put on a hive some weeks ago. So I'll put that on. And I'll put that on. And I'll put that on. And I'll put that on. So there we have it, the white hive.